it's Carolyn. I'm here to help you learn how to bake and decorate amazing cakes, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make this awesome Lucky Charms cake. So I am starting with my cake already baked, filled, iced, and it is in the refrigerator waiting to be decorated. I have tons of videos showing you how I do that process. That will be linked in the description. And I will also let you know how much I charged for this cake. So let's get started. So shout out to Sugar and Sparrow for her blog on how to do this technique. And in this blog, it does say that she had some issues and she had to try a couple different techniques to get it right. And I had the same thing happen. So I'm going to link this below so you can read this if you would like, and hopefully it will help you out. Putting this on a 7-inch cake, so I have a 7-inch cake pan just to make sure that this balloon is the right size. And then I have some of these meltable candy melts, and I'm putting them in a plastic bowl. Going to put that in the microwave at 20-second intervals until it's melted. And the instructions do say to spray the balloon with some oil. So I did that and I rubbed it in. And you just want to make sure that you cover the entire balloon with that spray. And then I got my candy melts out of the microwave and they are completely melted. And I just wanted to make sure they weren't too hot that it would pop the balloon. Now I'm holding the balloon with one hand and I'm using the spoon technique to start. So I started by taking a little spoon and just scooping some of this melted chocolate out here and trying to take the spoon and drip it down the balloon. I didn't want to drip down too far, but then I decided to adjust my camera, so I moved the camera and then the balloon tipped over. Great. So let's try this again. So I'm just trying to gently place that chocolate on the balloon so I can get these good drips. And then I just felt like there was too much oil on the balloon or something. So this wasn't working out. Oh, great. Now look at this. This is just a mess. So I tried to continue, but realized that these drips were going way too far down the balloon. So I really do think there's too much oil on here, and I want to scrape it off and put the chocolate back in the bowl, and let's start all over again. Remelted that chocolate in the microwave, and this time I'm using an icing bag and I'm pouring all the chocolate in there. And then I like to clip the top, so I fold the edges over, fold it down on the top twice, and then clip it. And then I am spraying that balloon again, but I'm trying not to use as much oil as I did before because I don't want it to be too oily, but oily enough that it doesn't stick. I clipped off the tip of the bag, and now I'm going to squeeze it on here. And she said to do this in the blog, so I'm like, maybe this will work. So let's try dripping this down, and no, there's way too much oil. This is a mess. So let's dump it back in there, scrape it off, and now I have to start all over again. So now I decided to manually place it on here and smear it on here with my little spatula. So I'm trying to get a thinner coat of this chocolate on the balloon, and I'm just smearing it on here and trying to get it to look like a drip. I do that a little better with the other coats that I put on here, but I'm just trying to get a thin coat on this balloon so the chocolate sticks and doesn't run all the way down. So I did not respray it with that oil. And then once I had the whole thing covered, then I'm doing another thin coat. So I'm trying to leave the bottom of the balloon without any chocolate on it. That way I can hold it and it won't, you don't want it to come all the way down to the bottom of the balloon anyway. And then on the second coating, do you see how I'm kind of dripping it on there? And I'm using my spatula to kind of manipulate it down to the bottom to end in a little drip. So I just found that this technique was a little easier. It does look a little sloppy, but I will clean that up as we go along. So again, I'm just doing an entire second coat on here. So I'm covering that first coat with another coat of chocolate, just putting it into place with my spatula. And once I have that final second coat on here, I need to rest this in this little bowl, but I need to put it in the refrigerator first. So I put it over in the fridge, and do you see how it's resting in there so the chocolate isn't touching the bowl? And I let that set for about an hour, and now I'm putting on the third coat. If this is thicker, I'm doing 3 coats because the chocolate will be less likely to break. So again, I remelted the chocolate in the microwave, and I'm using my spatula, and do you see how I'm trying to get it to kind of drip and come to a drip at the bottom rather than just having it flat? So I'm just going over that entire ball with another coat of the chocolate. And again,
I went over to the refrigerator and I'm letting that sit in there. It was actually overnight. So now I'm washing my hands. My hands are always clean when I handle these cakes. I got that out of the refrigerator. So it was in there for probably like 15 hours. And it says in that blog to take a little palette knife and I'm gently pressing this balloon away from the chocolate because I don't want to break off those chocolate pieces as I try to remove this balloon. Now, there wasn't that much oil on there, so I have to manually remove it. I took some scissors and I cut it right underneath the knot so it wouldn't pop, and it's slowly losing air. Now I can get my palette knife down the sides and I'm pulling the balloon away from the chocolate. So that way I don't want to break the chocolate and I don't want to pop the balloon. So I'm just working in small sections. And then I can use my hands to try to squeeze it off of that chocolate and lift it out. And now I need to smooth these edges because that looks a little mess. So I just have a Dresden tool and it kind of has a little bit of texture on it. So I'm just kind of filing down these rough edges. What that broke there. So I just want to kind of round these drips so they look more like a drip and not so square and weird. So I just use this tool and use my fingers to try to just get rid of all of those jagged pieces. And that looks so much better. So now what I want to do is just put this on a pan that is on very low heat. You don't want to burn the chocolate. I'm just trying to get rid of that rounded bottom. This way it sits on the cake a little better. And she does explain this in that blog. And you can see how it's just kind of melting some of that chocolate away on the bottom. And then I have a piece of wax paper on that little cutting board and I'm going to set this on there so it doesn't stick. And I'm going to put this back in the refrigerator overnight until I'm ready to put it on the cake. So I'm starting at 348. I washed my hands again. I got my cake out of the refrigerator. I'm marking the front of the cake where it's most symmetrical so I know where the front is. And I got some of the Lucky Charms on this cutting board. I have some piping gel in that lid. I'm taking a wet paper towel and just cleaning the board before I start this. And I'm just using tweezers, dip the cereal into the piping gel, and then I'm placing all of these individually on the cake. It's just going to be so much cleaner if you place them on individually. You can try to scoop them on with your hand and press it against the cake. I just think it looks so much neater doing it this way. However, it did take me about an hour to do. So I'm just haphazardly putting these on here, trying to fit it together like a puzzle. So I guess it's not haphazard. And making sure that you can't really see any icing through the cereal towards the bottom of the cake. And once I had that bottom row on, then I'm starting to lift some random pieces closer up to the top of the cake to give it a little more visual interest. And you can see by the time I was done this, it was almost an hour that I finished that. So let's put that back in the refrigerator. And now I printed this out on my edible printer, and I have a video showing you how I use my edible printer. That will be linked below. I have this cutter. I love this cutter tool. This will be linked in the description, and it allows me to get even cuts on this little banner that I have. And once I have that all cut, I flip it upside down on a paper towel, take some piping gel and wipe it all the way along the back. And I'm coming off of that little piece onto that paper towel. That way I'm making sure I'm getting all along the edges. And then I'm curling this as I put it down. That way no air bubbles are going to form behind it and it's going to stick to that piece of fondant that I rolled out. And I'm taking my pizza cutter and just cutting a nice even edge around it. Take my fingers and just smooth that out. And I don't want it to dry out, so I'm storing it in a Ziploc bag. And let's set that aside. Now I'm getting my cake out of the refrigerator and I need to put this on the cake. So I carefully remove that off of that wax paper, and that was in the refrigerator, so it's really cold. So now I'm getting a little bit of buttercream icing on the bottom and sticking that down and gently pressing that down on the cake, taking my spatula and just removing any excess icing that's sticking out underneath. And now I have this wooden dowel and I sharpen this end in a pencil sharpener that I only use for dowels, never use for pencils. And I'm going to stick that down into the board and put the bag on. That's how it's going. That's the technique I'm doing. So I'm putting this in here on an angle and it's going through the cake and I'm hammering it into the cake board, but I didn't like the angle that it was on. I'm trying to do it a little more straighter. And then I'm hammering it down through the cake into the cake board. Now I'm taking some icing and just putting it in that bowl around the skewer, and then I want to bring it up the skewer as well. So this part's a little tricky, but it's not that difficult. It can be a little messy. It doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to cover it with the cereal. So I'm bringing it up the skewer and just making sure the entire skewer is covered with that icing. And then I'm getting some of that cereal and filling the bowl with it and gently wrapping it around that skewer so that icing is still sticky and the cereal is going to easily stick to that icing. Now, I want to make sure that I cover all of the icing that's going up the skewer, so it's a little tricky. I want to make sure that I don't break that chocolate part that's sticking up, so I just want to be really careful as I do this. And then I had to take little individual pieces and stick them on the icing because I'm trying to cover up as much white as I can. It's okay if you see some white because it's kind of like milk, but I'm just trying to cover as much of that icing as possible. And now in order to get the bag to stick, I need to fill it with some buttercream. So I'm just getting buttercream on my spatula and just rubbing it in on the inside. And that way, when I stick it on the top of the skewer, the icing is going to really stick to the skewer and it's really going to hold it in place. And I'm just taking some more Lucky Charms and just patching any holes and fill the rest of the bowl. And now I want to get a ribbon around here, so I'm just getting some non-toxic glue around there. I got some glue on the back of the ribbon and I'm wrapping the ribbon around the cake drum where it overlaps. I'm getting a little more glue down and then I can seal that and press it down one more time for good measure. And now I want to get this banner on the cake, so I'm just waving it back and forth to give it a little motion. And now I want to get some icing behind each part where it's going to touch the cake. And here is the Lucky Charms cake. How cool is that?
So there you go. How cool is this cake? I just love it so much. Now, I cannot take credit for the design. I was given this picture and it looks like it's a screenshot from TikTok. However, I couldn't find a name or anything on there so I can give the original designer proper credit. So if you guys have any idea who that is, please put that in the comments because I would love to be able to give them credit because I did not come up with this design. A few things that I want to say about this. Number one, latex balloons really are not edible. So that chocolate touched the latex balloon and I feel like you really shouldn't eat that chocolate bowl. I'm sure you can. I'm sure there wouldn't be an issue with it, but I did let my customer know that it did touch the balloon and I just recommended that you don't eat it. It might taste like latex. I don't really think that that flavor transfers onto the chocolate. I just wanted to let her know so she can make that decision. And also I did let her know, I put that cereal on the cake like 2 days before it was to be picked up. So the cereal could be a little stale as it was sitting out and not like in a bag. So that's one of the risks that you run when you decorate cakes with cereal, that it could just get a little stale from sitting out. And the next time, it's funny, after I make a cake, I always look at it and figure out what I can do better next time. I think I let the drip come down the balloon a little too much because it was a little higher than I would want it to be. And also, I think I would buy a smaller balloon. I couldn't find mini balloons anywhere. I probably should have went to Party City, but I got them at Target. They only had the regular size balloons, so I only blew them up I blew it up just a little bit. But I think a mini balloon would have been much better. So this looked more like a milk bowl rather than a milk splash. And also, the picture that she originally sent me has a big box pouring the cereal into the cake. However, she was picking up the cake. I knew she had to drive with it, and that box would have been really awkward. And I just feel like the vibrations of the cake, the car while you're driving, could have shaken it around too much and ruined the cake. That's why I opted to go with the smaller bag. And I didn't even know that cereal came in these little bags anymore. They used to be little boxes. But I was at Target and I found this variety pack of cereal and there were 2 bags of the Lucky Charms and other varieties. So that's what I went with. And I'm glad that I did because putting the icing in the bag and once it solidifies in the refrigerator, it really held it on there so that wasn't going anywhere. This cake on the inside is a 2-layer torted 7-inch cake and it feeds about 16 to 20 people. I have a video where I talk about when I tort and when I don't tort my cakes and that will be linked below. And how much did I charge? This one was $250. I probably could have charged a little bit more, $275, but this was for a repeat customer, so I hooked her up. So I think that's it. What new techniques did you learn in this video? I would love to know. Leave it in the comments below. And just a reminder, I have a Cake Academy membership program where I can help you elevate your cakes to the next level. I would love to have you aboard. All of that information will be listed in the description. Please like this video if you liked it, and if you're enjoying my tutorials, I would be so grateful if you could buy me a coffee. My link is down below. And I would love it if you would keep in touch on socials, and you could check out my website. If you want to stick around so you can watch this video next, and hit subscribe and the bell if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching. I love you guys. And remember, it's cake. Have fun. I will see you on the next one. Bye.